Hello and welcome to another weapons tutorial. This episode, I want to address the following. We have our weapon animations firing off. You notice that every time I shoot a weapon, the arms don't seem to do anything. We're going to implement some animations for those arms every time we shoot the weapon and reload. Now, a warning, the arms that we're using are separate from the developer who created the weapons. So the animations for the arms and the animations for the weapons are going to line up perfectly. But this is still how you could implement your animations in your own project if you had someone design them both together, or at least design animations around one or the other. So let's get started. The first thing we need to do is find a way to tell our animations when we're firing. Over in Blueprints, in Weapons, if we open up Weapon Base and go over to the Fire Weapon script. So what we're going to do here is create a variable. I'm going to call it isFiring. And then we're going to set this variable to true once we're convinced that we can capably fire. So I'm going to take true here and plug it in there. And I'll need to make a little bit more room. But basically, after we've asked, are we reloading and do we have enough in our clip? That's when we're going to set the isFiring to true. Next up, we need to come over to our other weapons. We've set up separate functions outside of the fire weapon function before. As you can see here with the assault rifle, we're using a loop script to fire that back over again every time we've pulled the trigger. What we need to do is set that variable to false after a delay. And I'll show you why the delay needs to be there a bit later on. But for now, let's grab our assault rifle script, move that over, put the branch in so we're not firing over the retriggerable delay if we're not firing. Not that it's actually doing anything realistically, but there's no point firing off script if it's unnecessary. And then we'll drag a little bit more room out here. And after the delay, we will set isFiring to false. And we'll compile it and save that. Now back over to our test map, we'll do the same for pistol. Putting a branch there, then we'll set a little delay. And normally the delay can be 0.1, doesn't have to be 0.2. So we'll go 0.1 and then set isFiring to false. Now back over to the test map, let's go and do the same for the shotgun. And we already have a delay here, so what we can do is just shove it on the end, set isFiring. And for all the weapons that you do have a cooldown for, it's just going to be a matter of shoving that at the end. The other weapon that we have that has a cooldown is our sniper rifle. So we'll just set isFiring to false. And we will need to implement a cooldown on the rocket launcher. The way I've got the rocket launcher set up now is that the clip only has one bullet, so it's not really an issue. In case you wanted to have more in that clip or the ability to upgrade that clip, we'll need to do a cooldown script. We might as well do that now. So if we go to the sniper rifle, this is the basic cooldown script, and because it's a child of the same parent, we can copy this script over. Just like that. So after we've spawned it, we're going to enter cooldown. And the other thing we do with the sniper rifle is we check that we're not in cooldown before we fire. Let's drag all of this over here. Put that script in there. And just to differentiate, we're going to set 3 seconds of a delay before we stop firing for our rocket launcher. So you can't spam fire the rocket launcher. The only weapon that we can currently spam is going to be the pistol. So let's compile and save that. And if we hit save all over here, we can just save the other stuff that we've done. So every weapon is going to set off that isFiring. Next up, let's go over to the test map again. We can actually close all of these guys because we're not going to need them again. Over to animations, let's open AB_hero. Over to the event graph. Now, once we've done all of these checks, what we're going to do is get our equipped weapon. get equipped weapon. Scroll down to the bottom and get equipped weapon. So that equipped weapon is what we're going to be speaking to, because next up we're going to cast to weapon base. And we can use weapon base because all of our weapons are a child of the weapon base parent. So we're going to need an isValid node. This question mark here for isValid. So what this is going to do is check whether the input object actually exists. If we don't put this here, we're going to get an error if we don't have any weapon in our weapon slot. So we're going to drag equipped weapon and put that there before we even do the casting. So if we have a weapon, the next thing we'll do is get child actor. And with child actor, we will then plug that into the cast to weapon base, because we need to speak to the child actor, not just the equipped weapon component object. Onto the script. The first thing we're going to check for is firing. We'll get is firing here, and then we're going to add a variable inside the animation blueprint called is firing. Because I haven't put a question mark in the other variables here, I'm going to keep the same format. So let's hold Alt and drag in is firing. And then let's plug is firing in as soon as we've done the casting. So that's what we're going to be checking for. Let's compile and save that. And we're going to come back here and add some other stuff. But for now, let's start with is firing. Over to the anim graph. This is the highest level of our animation graph. This is the output pose where we're going to put everything that these arms will do. And this is the locomotion state. And if you're in the locomotion state here, then you can just click on anim graph up here, and that will bring you back out here. So the locomotion state is essentially handling whether we're moving. It's got the jump script, it's got the walk script, it's got the sound effects tied to all of that, and we don't want to get in the way of that. We don't want to interrupt that. If we're shooting and walking at the same time, we still want the sound effect for us walking to play. So instead of replacing this or letting them interfere, let me introduce you to this node. Right click anywhere and type in blend multi. So this is one of the ways that we can blend animations together. Plug in locomotion into poses 0 and drag this down here, and then the output into the output. Make sure that both desired alphas are at 1, because we don't want one animation to have priority over the other. We want both animations to be playing at the same time. I should specify at this point that this is specifically if you are just using arms and you don't have a body for the rest of your character, or if you have a character as a skeletal mesh, but you haven't got the sections of that body separated to give them separate animations, which is stupidly complicated in its own right, and that's deep into the world of animation tutorials. So let's right click and add state machine. I'm going to call the state machine action, because we're not just going to determine whether we're firing. This is the state machine that's going to be in charge of all the actions that we could possibly do. We're going to plug action into poses. So the first pose we're going to get is going to be rifle idle, exactly the same as our locomotion. Now let's drag off of here and add a state. This is going to be called fire. And let's drag an arrow from fire back down to rifle idle. Let's double click on the node for can enter transition and drag is firing over there. So if we are firing, we can enter this transition. Click on action at the top, and now click on the node for the returning arrow. And here we will drag in is firing and go not. So if we're not firing anymore, we can come back. Back over to action, we can click on fire, and guess what? We have a rifle fire right here. So let's drag that in and plug that in there. Let's compile and save that. So let's go over to the test map, hit play, and if I shoot now, you can see the arms moving. Now, the syncing isn't quite lining up. The arms are moving at a different rate. But if I was to switch weapons, can see the arms moving with the weapon firing. Let's go and test the shotgun. Hypothetically, it's going to work for all of them. See there how the arms kept moving over and over again because the delay is a little bit longer. So we need to go and turn off loop. We just want this animation to play once for every time we fire. Click on the animation, and here over where it says loop animation, click on that arrow there, and we're good to go. Let's compile and save that. Let's also go back over to the assault rifle. So that's content, weapons, assault rifle. And let's bring down this retriggerable delay to 0.1 because it already feels a little bit slow for my liking. So we'll knock that down. And hopefully that means the animation will line up a little bit better because it will be refiring. So now let's try that. That's a little bit better. So now if we walk over to the shotgun and test that out, we're just getting the one. Same with the sniper rifle, which also has a long cooldown. We're just getting that one little jolt. I know it doesn't seem like much, but it does add to the realism. And if you want your game to feel as good as it is, have a look at other first-person games, your favorite first-person shooter games. The arms are always moving with the weapon. We'll test out the rocket launcher. It's going to go through the floor because the floor doesn't have any collision. That's fine. With that successfully working, let's go and add ourselves another animation. We've already done the legwork for this one, which is awesome. If we go back up to AB Hero, back over to the event graph, let's drag out of weapon base and get is reloading. And just as we did before, let's add a variable called is reloading. Alt drag that in. We'll plug that in there. And that's how that's going to work. Is reloading coming from the weapon base is going to set the variable inside of our anim blueprint. Compile and save that. Over to the fire state, which is actually our anim graph. Let's come back out to action, drag off of rifle idle, add state, and type in reload. Make sure we have an arrow going back and forth. We're going to add is reloading to the input going towards the reloading animation. Back to action. Let's double click on the returning arrow. Put the not bully in there. Open up reload, and we have ourselves a rifle reload just down here. Let's plug that in and make sure that looping is off. Compile and save. Over to the test map. Let's hit play, shoot a few bullets, press reload, and there is our character pretending that he's reloading his weapon. And again, they're not lining up. If you actually look at the reload animation to this weapon, even the magazine comes out and everything. Again, a stellar job to the developers of this weapon kit. So just quickly, because I like to explain to you exactly what's going on, the reason we need the delay in all of these scripts, and we can't just put is firing at the end of the function. Let's open up, let's say the pistol. So this delay, why is this necessary? Because if we have a look at AB_hero over in the event graph, coming from this animation blueprint all the way through here, this script, as much as it's happening extremely fast, it still takes a very, very small amount of time. It takes more time for this script to get all the way through to the end and set the is firing to whether it's true or false than it does for the weapon to set whether it's firing or not here. So if the weapon sets the is firing boolean to true and then sets it to false again faster than the animation blueprint can pick it up, then the firing animation won't work at all. So that's why we need a delay on all of our weapons before we set is firing to false. So that'll do for now. A little more realism, a little more life to our weapons, and we will continue on in the next episode.